For over 40 years, the APBA's delivered the best deck-to-deck action in the sport. Offshore's biggest names battle it out on the APBA circuit. Matt Alcone and Jerry Galbraith, Nigel Hook, Sitco Superguard, Forrest Barber and John Tomlinson, Drambuie on ice. The father and son team of Mark and Paul Nemshoff, multiple world and national champions. Steve Neely and Lance Lanciano in the modifieds Out of Bounds and the Ocean Spray Fountain with Bruce Penhall and throttleman Dennis Segalis. These are some of the stars you'll see in action in over 11 classes of APBA action. And today, those stars will be slinging their thunder on Fort Myers Beach, this boater's paradise, home to the Hooters Offshore Grand Prix. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fort Myers and the first race of the 1999 APBA Baja Offshore Circuit. And a race that'll lend itself to some real speed as we look at sort of an oblong with dog legs. It's a 10-mile course off the beach here in Fort Myers, Florida. It'll enable them to run flat out. Classes we'll see in first competition, the modifieds and USA 1. There's a look at the Cat Can Do with Keith Holmes on board. And in USA 1, last year's open class champion Matt Alcone. Let's check in with the other half of our broadcast team, Rich Lors, who'll tell us about the power plants in these machines in this week's Performance Report.
This is a state-of-the-art 500 cubic inch open class motor. It'll put out 975 horsepower and is composed of the finest components available. But at what price? It's a lifespan of about 90 minutes or one race. It's very costly to campaign. The new direction in APBA Offshore features more price-competitive sources of power. This is the Merc Cruiser 500 HP, a sealed engine that allows a predictable power output at a fixed price. It has good durability and is the basis for the new Factory 1, 2, and 3 classes that are the fastest growing group in offshore racing.
Later on in the show, we'll be taking a look at the F2 and F3 classes. Right now, let's get to racing. The USA 1 and modified classes as they get out onto the course. Drambuie on ice. Now we're on board that boat, courtesy of our Yanmar Diesel onboard camera. And there you see off the back end of it, these boats develop tremendous power. Now you're on board the Alcone Motorsports boat. You can see other boats. There's Drambuie off to the left-hand side. Because we'll be starting several classes together, they've got to be alert as to who's out there. Here comes the start for the modified and the USA 1, an endurance drag race of 100 miles.
Dick, in the USA 1 class, you've got speed potential up to 160 miles an hour, modified up to 140. You see the starter as he changes flags? That's the start. Now watch the horsepower build in the Matt Alcone-owned Alcone Motorsports, and the Drambuie on ice is right on him. Both of those boats can go up to around 160 miles an hour. They are the fastest race boats in the world. Looking off the Drambuie on ice, you see the modified fleet fading, but look at how closely matched they are.
These two boats capable of straightaway speeds of upwards approaching 160 miles per hour. Now, when you figure 45-foot boats at 160 miles an hour, you get an idea of where this sport is going, and it's going there very, very fast. What's the strategy on a course like this? Matt Alcone talked to us before the race.
We want to run fast, and we want to run 100 miles. Let the other guys win the race for the first 2 laps if that's what they want to do. But, you know, they only give checkered flags at the end of the race.
Well, he's accurate there. Right now, Alcone is trailing that Drambuie on ice, but not by much. He may sit back just a little bit, but he is not going to let him get away.
Forrest Barber, on the other hand, well, he wants to push the pace, make the other guy break.
It's going to be a race of trying to conserve your equipment, but knowing you're going to have to run flat out to stay in front. So how do you do that? That's up to John and I in the cockpit, and we'll hope we can outrun Matt and Jerry.
Right at the moment, it is really a tight battle for first place in this one. The current leader is, of course, Drambuie on ice. But as we told you, Alcone is sitting right behind. Meanwhile, the scene in the modified, Steve Neely and Lance Lanciano in the M1 Out of Bounds. This is a California-based team. Both of them grew up together in San Diego, California. But recently, Lance Lanciano moved to Sarasota, Florida. It did not break up the team.
And the way they're running today is why they're the national champions. The boat that has to catch him, this one, Cat Can Do. A quick machine out of Michigan. The boat is built in Michigan. It's a Skater Cat, and it's going against the California-based Out of Bounds team. Right now, Cat Can Do has their hands full.
APBA Baja Offshore Racing is brought to you by Baja. Baja, speed changes you. To Fort Myers, Florida, and the Hooters Offshore Grand Prix. Dick Crippen along with Rich Lures, your leader in US 1, the Drambuie on Ice Extreme team. Now, we've heard from the driver, Forrest Barber. Now let's turn our attention to the other man inside the Drambuie cockpit. That's throttleman John Tomlinson, who hosts our Safety Spotlight.
12 years ago, offshore racing safety technology took a giant step with the introduction of the F-16 fighter jet canopy into the sport. Made of a composite of two ultra-strong plastics, the canopy was successful in preventing injury or fatalities resulting from nosediving the boat or stuffing the boat. But that was 12 years ago. The latest cockpit safety systems use a much stronger combination of carbon fiber and fiberglass and only use pieces of the F-16 polycarbonate material for windows. Because of the smaller surface area, the ability to withstand impact has increased and the margin of safety has returned to much more acceptable levels. Unfortunately, in all forms of motor racing, perfection in safety systems is a goal rather than an exact science. The Drambuie team has raised the bar to the highest level, but with the ever-increasing speeds each year, you can never be careful enough.
And this reminder from your current leader, the Drambuie on Ice Extreme team. Boating and drinking never mix. When the race ends, that's when the celebration begins.
And Drambuie is currently leading in USA 1, leaving the Alcone Motorsports nestled in second place. A cat-and-mouse game, a game of strategy, a game of chess, if you will. Matt Alcone not willing to push the pace, not willing to go flat out. Drambuie, on the other hand, they're using their speed, but Alcone's right on him. Matt Alcone's got his eye on him. As a matter of fact, he's cleaning his windscreen so he can be sure to keep that boat in his sights.
In the modified division, the leader, the M1, out of bounds. No surprise, this is a national championship team, and that boat is running perfectly in this water off of Fort Myers, Florida right now. Steve Neely and Lance Lanciano doing a great job.
Talon hull built here in West Florida, perfect for these waters. And here in second place is that skater hull we talked about, the Cat Can Do from CK Motorsports. This boat is capable of speeds close to 140, and certainly we know that it can get right up there with that M1 boat and push them for the race.
But look what's happened here. Rich Drambuie dead in the water. Forrest Barber and John Tomlinson, nothing but frustration for them. Out on the deck looking down at the boat. There's nothing much you can do. The strategy of one Matt Alcone that he told us before, it's only the boat that gets the checkered flag that finishes with the win. There he is. He's the leader, and he's going to take it if he can just hold on.
Yes, in this chess game, Matt Alcone just scored checkmate. He picked the right course. He picked the right strategy, held back a little bit. Now he's got plenty of boat left to win the race while Drambuie sits on the sidelines, helplessly watching him roar past.
And he has no problem in front of him, as you can see. Well, speaking of walking home with victory, that's exactly what the M1 out of bounds machine did in capturing the win in the modified class. Great job. These guys set out right from the start and led it wire to wire. They had a good start, and that's so important because they get to the first turn first and they have the better water from the rest of the field.
The Cat Can Do never got their act together in the modified class. Didn't really push out of bounds. Out of bounds dominated from wire to wire.
Great racing off of Fort Myers, Florida for the out-of-bounds team. Meanwhile, Alcone catches a single at the end of this endurance drag race with Forrest Barber out of the race in Drambuie on ice. Alcone cruises home with the win in Fort Myers in USA 1.
The results, Alcone Motorsports getting 101 points over Drambuie's 90. A fitting start to a national championship that found Alcone winning last year. M1 out of bounds, your reigning national champion, also back in the lead in the national points race. Two different strategies, the same results. M1, they led from wire to wire. Matt Alcone held back. He gets his checkered flag anyway. Both teams used the right strategy for today's conditions.
Our game plan from the very beginning was hang in there and see how it looks on the 7th lap and how hard we had to race, and thank goodness it didn't come to that. I just have a real smart throttle man who kept telling me this is where we're going to run the motors to make sure we make it the whole day. He's the best.
Yeah, you kind of have to play that game.
Well, you do now with as much competition. You know, we don't, from lack of boats, but we've got one boat in particular that gives us a lot of competition. And we just thought we'd wait to get to the end of the race and we'd start racing. As in Winston Cup terms, we were saving our tires.
It was nice to lead the race for as long as we did. Unfortunately, we broke, but it heartens us. I think we have a real competitive boat, it looks like. And if we can just keep it together for the next race, I think we'll have some good results.
We've really gotten dialed in. You know, both Lance and I, who have been racing together now for a couple of years, have kind of come into our own and are quite comfortable with each other. And now we can run the boat a little bit harder. We assembled a first-class team between TNT Custom Marine and Sterling Performance. Couldn't ask for a better combination for winning. And I think a lot of what we've been able to accomplish is due to their great efforts.
And we've dialed in a lot more action for you coming your way from Fort Myers.
Prix, the spectator boats assembled for some of the greatest.
And the Super V lineup, the fastest V bottoms in the world. Watch the Ocean Spray Fountain, Supercharged Power, Factory 2, box stock hulls, box stock engines as well in Factory 3, box stock cats, box stock engines.
F2 boats on the course. We're going to go on board the Team Lazzara. There's Dick Lazzara on the left, the owner of the boat and driver. Here's the Mastery Engine Center in pre-race as they get their final strategy in line.
In the Super V class, the only diesel-powered entry in the race, the Nemshoff. Father and son team, Mark and Paul Nemshoff. Let's go on the dock and see what son Paul has to say about racing with his dad.
It really is a thrilling experience. We've had a lot of fun racing together. We've had great success together. It's a neat thing to be a team with him. And it's neat also having my mother involved in the sport. But overall, we go out there, we're competitive, we react real well together. And even in life, it's improved our communication. We know what each other's going to do. We've had instances where we've lost the intercom, but we just keep going because we know what the other one does. We work well together, and in the end, hopefully we succeed together.
And that genetic link succeeded for them 2 years ago when they, in fact, were the Super V national champions.
We're looking at the Citgo Super Guard closest to you. Now we're on board that boat with our Yanmar diesel, official diesel engine on board camera.
And also on board the V10 CGS Ferocious, custom grinding systems. Getting ready for the start. This is when the butterflies get awfully big in your stomach, Dick.
Well, they certainly do, and this is where strategy plays into it. As we pointed out many times, everybody's trying to go for the same point in the first turn. You see the yellow flag. Now the green flag goes up on the start boat. The pace boat pulls off the field, and there we go.
Watch the Supercharged Power. Watch the Ocean Spray Fountain. Officially the world's fastest V-bottom. Timed on a measured kilometer. And look at how they're using their power. Supercharged 1,300 horsepower engines for Paul Pfaff. Wow, they're running away with the race.
They certainly are. A great clean field right in front of them now, and the competition is on either side of them, but behind them at this point. So now, will the Fountain boat be able to get up on the inside? That's an advantageous place to be because the first turn is to the right.
As fast as they took off, Ocean Spray has lost something in the engine compartment, allowing the V76 Fountain with Art Lilly and Jeff Harris on board to take the lead on the inside, and you can see Ocean Spray basically pulling out of the picture and off the course.
So Jeff Harris and Art Lilly now in the lead on board the CGS Ferocious. They also have had some sort of a problem.
Just like that, a two-boat race. The V76 Fountain in the lead and that diesel-powered V41 Nemshoff.
Let's go to the F2s. Now this is exciting. These boats are very, very equal as they come down. The pace boat taking them down the course to release them for the start. See how even they are, and they are still trying to hold their line. Once again, the yellow flag up. Remember, when the green goes there, they are officially off. Now this time we don't see the bounce out in front quite as fast.
And you won't, because in the Super V class you have custom racing engines. In this class everything is box stock Mercruiser, sealed at the factory, but F251 and the F21 Sutphin locked up in a duel right off the bat. That's the Mastery Engine Center with Mike Allwise at the wheel and Brian Kirby in the Sutphin. Allwise taking a much better line in that first turn, and the line is everything.
And in the F3 we have a big battle brewing between the F311 Team Douglas trailing F305 the Team Yahoo. We'll be back with more racing from Fort Myers, Florida in a moment. Speed changes you. Talking about speed, how about the lack of speed? Attrition has changed the complexion of this race. Super V has two boats out of competition.
And Dick, I swear to you, Nemshoff in Russian means relentless. Nemshoff going around the V76 Fountain. Those diesels never stop. The V76 Fountain, faster gasoline power, but they get a lot hotter and they get pushed a lot harder at these high speeds.
In the F2 race, Team Lazzara is currently riding fourth. They are heading into the north end of the turn. Let's hear from driver Dick Lazzara, left of your screen, on his approach to the turns.
All the excitement is at the turns, and setting up for the turns and how you set your boat up to handle the turn, maintaining speed and position is all important.
And with all of that, Dick Lazzara has a very casual approach to the turns. He's driving with one hand, Dick. Ooh, and that cost him. You saw how his hand came right back to the wheel. He almost lost that boat. A little too casual in that last turn.
Well, Team Lazara's biggest rival happens to be the Mastery Engine Center right there. Watch this ride by the Mastery Engine Center machine. Boy, I'll tell you what, there they get thrown around. Oops! All the way around 360 degrees. Mike Allwas, the driver on the left of your screen, was literally tossed to the bottom of the boat. Wow, you don't often see a boat that size do that.
And that left the field to Sutphin to lead the race. This Sutphin boat now, they handled properly around the turns, didn't have the problems that the other two competitors had, and it left the race to them.
Here's a good battle for second place with the F245 Velociraptor leading the F238 Twisted Sticks. Watch the air the Twisted Sticks gets, though. He starts bouncing up and down there. They start catching that air under the boat, and you don't know where the boat's going to be going. You just hope that it lands even on that pad in the back and comes back down.
You really don't want to do that. When that boat is floating like that, you have such little control over that boat. Anything could happen. And they didn't back out at all. That boat just floated right along. They didn't back her down. They didn't settle her at all.
F305, Team Yahoo out of the race. Attrition also the big story in the F3 boats. The Team Yahoo developed problems. Team Douglas has the race in control. And unlike the V's, they're sitting very flat on the water.
And also very stable. In the Super V class, the story is in the Citgo Super Guard. Last year it was a B class boat. This year they've stepped it up to Super V. They put a lot more horsepower in the engine compartment. That's a challenge for the team. Nigel Hook talked about that challenge.
We put in a lot of weight to meet the minimum weight requirements for the class. And we've only had a couple of brief practice sessions, so today's going to be, if she runs real good, we'll run hard and fast. If there's a few behavioral problems with the boat, we'll just take it a little easy.
I love the way he says, we'll take it real easy. There is no way they'll take it real easy. There's two speeds of that boat, fast forward and broken.
And let's hope with the extra 1,000 horsepower it doesn't wind up broken. The V76 Fountain, Jeff Harris and Art Lilly on board, they have a big job. They have to catch this boat, the Nemtshoff, with Paul and Mark Nemtshoff on board, diesel-powered Italian design, a sophisticated piece of racing machinery, and an ex-national champion.
And that magic between father and son has worked once again for this team that has had national honors. The Nemtshoff team, father and son Mark and Paul, come home winner in the Super V. Moving over to the F2, it's the F2-1 Team Sutphin with Brian Kirby and Doug Lewis on board. They can see the checkered flag dead ahead. They will claim the win in the Factory 2 boats. A very tight one at the start, but they come home alone to take the win, and they are happy about that, waving to the crowd.
In these super fast conditions, consistency and conservatism were the key. Nemtshoff taking the win in the Super V class over the Fountain. Team Sutphin again over Velociraptor with two other key competitors out early on. Meanwhile, in the Factory 3, Team Douglas over Team Yahoo Racing. Long season to go. One of the teams that know that very well here, the Nemtshoff. They've won the national championship. They know that the first race isn't the whole season. Brian Kirby can credit his veteran throttlman Doug Lewis for the victory.
Good, excellent race. I love this race.
Brian, any problems at all?
It was a little bumpy on one corner, but no, it was smooth and that stuff, and just hauled butt the whole race.
Yeah, everybody really did an excellent job preparing the boat. Overall, everything performed really, really well. We're excited about the win. This Fountain showed that it's actually the best high-performing boat in the world, and we're real excited about this victory.
Dad?
Yeah, I'm real excited, too. Our team did a great job. I want to thank our team. I want to thank my wife, my family, our sponsors, Sandals, Tommy Bahama. It's just a great day.
Not a great day for the Mastery Engine Center entry. Remember when they threw that 360 in the middle of the course? A lot of damage, as driver Mike always explains.
Things happen when you're racing. We were probably about 4 or 5 seconds behind the Sutphin, right at the apex of the turn, and I might have turned it a little too hard. Something let go, couldn't pull it back, and basically all three of us went to the floor trying to stay upright, and thank the Lord we did.
That'll do it from Fort Myers. APBA Offshore Racing is produced by Diamond P Sports in association with TNN, the Nashville Network. For more, click on to TNN's website, country.com. Be sure and join us next week at the same time for more APBA action when we come to you from Corpus Christi for the East-West Shootout. Dick Crippen for Rich Lors. So long, everybody.